So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Shadow the Hedgehog. So let's start the series. Our story takes place outside of Mobius' orbit. The arc was rapidly approaching Mobius with a giant lizard-like creature, the final hazard, attached to the front. We saw two golden auras flying around in space, seemingly fighting against the final hazard. It was a fierce battle, and although the two golden lights, who turned out to be anthropomorphic hedgehogs, won, the battle was not yet over because, despite defeating the prototype of the ultimate life form, the ark was still heading toward the planet they were defending. One of the hedgehogs got an idea as the other two were looking worried about what to do to prevent it from colliding with Mobius. The young hedgehog said, "Hey Shadow, do you think we can use chaos control on that thing?" The red-striped hedgehog, who is Shadow, looked at him and then nodded. "Yes, Sonic, we can, but we will need to use everything we got to teleport such a large object out of orbit at least." "Then what are we waiting for? Let's do this," said Shadow, nodding as he and Sonic charged towards the ark. While they were doing so, he heard a voice say, "Maria," in a low tone before refocusing on their goal with determination. Both hedgehogs lifted their hands, focusing their energy on them as they approached. "Now, Shadow!" Sonic yelled until they both yelled, "Chaos Control," and a massive burst of light engulfed the ark. The ark then disappeared and resurfaced far from Mobius's gravitational pull. As he fell into the globe, Shadow murmured, "Maria, this is what you wanted, right?" before changing from his golden appearance to a black fur. He closed his eyes and waited for the chance to see his friend again. "This is my promise I made to you." Sonic still had enough energy to stay in his super form while Shadow was falling, but he was too tired to realize his ally was gone. When he turned to face Shadow, he saw that he was dying with just one inhibitor ring left. Sonic approached it and took it before returning to the ark they had teleported with a dejected expression. Asterisk inside the ark's control room. Before they heard the door behind them open and turned to see Sonic with a dejected expression, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, and either Dr. Robotnik or Eggman were waiting outside a window. "Where's Shadow?" Rouge inquired, concerned about the hedgehog she regarded as a friend despite the fact that they had hardly met and knew one another. Sonic approached her slowly, shaking his head no, and gave her Shadow's inhibitor. Rouge and the other people in the room were both shocked and sad, and after a little while they talked about the recent events, they all began to leave. As Sonic was leaving the room, he turned around to take one final look before saying, "Sayonara." Shadow the Hedgehog. Asterisk in limbo. When Shadow opened his eyes again, he was a little perplexed because he felt as though he had died, but he also didn't feel particularly alive. "Is this the afterlife?" he asked no one in particular as he looked around at the lifeless, blank space he was in and noticed that his body was somewhat transparent. He remained there for a few more minutes before a bright light began to shine, and he covered his eyes with his hands and narrowed his eyes. "What is going on?" he asked himself, and as the light completely filled the empty space, everything turned black for Shadow. Asterisk somewhere on the planet. After a few seconds, he began to hear a baby's cries, which startled him until his eyes opened slightly, and he saw two tiny human arms. Shadow was shocked to see this, and recalled a story from Mobius that Maria enjoyed reading when she was still alive. Among these stories, one of them told a story that was similar to his own situation. Have I been reincarnated? Shadow was unaware of the new, significant journey that awaited him in the body of the boy Naruto Uzumaki. For some reason, even though I can communicate with Kyubi, the nine-tailed beast, a demon that has been imprisoned inside Naruto Uzumaki, the boy doesn't seem to remember that he killed his parents in front of him. After all, he was only a newborn baby. It's been 12 years since my reincarnation, and it feels more like I'm stuck watching a show than anything else. Even though we don't get along, the tailed beast was willing to tell me everything I needed to know about this world, the world of the elemental nations. He covered everything from jutsus and chakra to clans and bloodlines to shinobis and hidden villages. He also told me that I wasn't trapped, but rather that I was dormant, a part of his soul that he hadn't yet awakened. I don't have any reason to believe him, and I don't have a better explanation, so I'm a little concerned about what kind of trigger he'll need to wake me up. Konoha, the settlement of the Fire Nation's Hidden Leaf. We now see a certain spiky blonde-haired wearing a pair of goggles on his forehead boy who is now 12 years old running away while laughing from some shinobis who chasing after him. Get back here, Naruto! What's gotten into you for you to cover the faces of the 4 Hokages in graffiti? Get your aces back here! Shouted the 2 Chunins. Naruto stopped his laughing to turn his head around, say to the 2, "No," before starting to laugh yet again, irritating his pursuers in the process. Is he going to grow up one day? Shadow thought to himself while looking through the eyes of his reincarnation. He has gotten used to Naruto's way of coping with loneliness, although a bit childish, immature, and irrational. He can't help but relate to him somehow, probably because due to being linked with him. Since the day he was born, he could feel what Naruto was experiencing on a daily basis. He really felt bad for the boy and wanted to help, but he couldn't, which makes him feel more powerless than he already was in his current state. He keeps watching the remainder of the day as Sensei Irika captures Naruto and brings him back to school. The ramen stand in Ichiraku. Irika promised Naruto that he would take him to Ichiraku's ramen to clean up the mess he created once the academy's day ended. Consume some ramen. He should really start considering eating something other than ramen. It's surprising how he's able to stay healthy with just ramen as diet. If he tried to eat other things, then maybe he will start to grow taller, Shadow complained. Hey Naruto, Irika said, gaining the attention of the blonde knucklehead, who was eating his bowl of ramen. Why did you paint on the portrait of the Hokages? You should know who they are, right? Asked Irika, who is genuinely to that Naruto immediately. Of course I know who they are. They have received the title of Hokage because they were the strongest shinobis in the village, especially the 4th who sacrificed his life to get rid of the 9-tailed fox. If only you knew, Shadow sighed sadly. Irika was confused a bit more, so he asked, if you know that, then why did you do this? Naruto grinned at this and proudly said, because I'm also going to become Hokage one day, and I'll be the greatest of them all. And with it, everyone will have to acknowledge me and respect me. Irika just stares at Naruto after his declaration before he asked, hey Sensei, can I ask you a favor? You want another bowl of ramen? Don't tempt him. No, I want to ask, can I try your headband? Irika then pointed at his forehead, in which he wore a ninja headband with the symbol of the Hidden Leaf Village on it, which was a leaf. Oh, this? Sorry, but no can do. only those that have graduated from the academy can receive it. Maybe you'll be able to get yourself one tomorrow if you pass the exam. You mean it? Exclaimed Naruto, which Irika slightly chuckled. Was this why you remove your goggles? He rhetorically asked, pointing out the fact he had put his goggles down. Yes, it was. Asterisk at the academy the next day. On the day of the final exam, Naruto was confident that he would pass even though he had already failed it twice. For this test, you will be evaluated on your ability to do the Banshin no Jutsu. When your name is called, come to room next to this one, Irika said, and his confidence vanished. Of all the jutsus he had learned here, the Banshin no Jutsu was by far the one he struggled with the most, but at least he still had his resolve, albeit somewhat weakened. Naruto eventually was called and entered the room for the test. He saw Irika seated behind a desk with a lot of ninja headband on it. Also another teacher was there, Mizuki. Naruto performed the hand seal for the jutsu and shout, Banshin no Jutsu. A cloud of smoke then spawned next to Naruto, and when it went away it revealed a clone who looked like he was dying on the floor. Everyone in the room was silent and had varying expressions. Naruto was panicked. Irika was irritated. Mizuki seems oddly unfazed, and Shadow didn't have an expression because he didn't have a physical body, but he was slightly disappointed. You failed, shouted Irika while Naruto was feeling defeated. Come on, Irika, don't you think we could make an exception? He did manage to make a clone at least, and it's pretty original. Mizuki says to Irika. This catch the attention of Shadow, who now was suspicious of him. He did notice a good while ago that he was among the teachers who weren't fond of Naruto because of the tailed beast. Naruto didn't, because unlike the others, Mizuki was good at hiding it. Shadow now is wary of Mizuki. Just what do you have in mind, Mizuki? While Naruto was looking at Mizuki with hopes in his eyes, Irika answered to Mizuki. No, everyone else was able to at least do 3 clones, and compared to this, they were in good shapes. We can't pass him under those conditions. Naruto was staring at him with discontent. Asterisk away from the academy, Mizuki approached Naruto and said, Hey Naruto. Naruto turned to face him and asked, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto was sitting on a swing, watching from a distance as all of his classmates received accolades from their parents or families for passing the test. Asterisk on Mizuki's apartment's balcony. You know, Irika is not necessarily mean. He has grown up without his parents, which drove him to become very strict, Mizuki said to Naruto in an apparent attempt to lift his spirits. But why does he persist at making redo everything? Naruto asked, and Mizuki smiled and looked at him. Probably because you remind him of himself. Naruto was a little taken aback by his response, and he looked at him and said, I'm sure he wants you to become strong. You are orphan as well. Surely you should know how he feels. Naruto looked down a little saddened and said, Well, if you really want to become a Jinin, then maybe there is something that could help you out. Asterisk in the Hokage's office at night. After sneaking into the third Hokage's office and beginning to search for something, Naruto said, Naruto, what are you doing in my office at this hour? The third Hokage made his presence known by looking at Naruto with an unflattering expression. Naruto then changed into a nude woman and said, Oroku no Jutsu. Wait, what dash? Shadow sighed at this and thought, even if this jutsu is very vulgar and provocative, it is indeed very effective against perverted people, but I would have never expected the third to be one of them. With some of his respect for Hiruzen gone, Shadow said that last part, and while the Hokage was unconscious, Naruto found what he was looking for and abandoned. Asterisk inside a cabin in the woods. Let's see here. The first jutsu is Kage Bunshin. Aw man, another Bunshin jutsu? Well, I guess I could try it out, Naruto said to himself, ignoring the information about the jutsu. Shadow, on the other hand, is reading the full description of the jutsu to learn more about it. So compared to Bunshin, the clones produced by this jutsu are not illusions, but solid clones. Memory feedback, huh? If used properly, this jutsu could allow anyone to learn almost anything that would have taken months of practice in mere days, if only this idiot had the forethought to read the description. Naruto continued to train on using the jutsu, and after trial and error, he finally got it right, producing a couple of clones, still unaware of how impressive what he accomplished was. A couple minutes later, Iruka appeared and said, "I finally found you, Naruto." To this grinned and said, "Hey look, I found Mr. Bloody Nose." Naruto taunted, referring to yesterday, when he used his Oroku no Jutsu, while they are at it with their shenanigans. For Shadow, the scene that has unfolded took him back to his first confrontation with Sonic. This sure takes me back. If he had a body, we could have seen him smirk. His attention went back to Naruto and Iruka when Naruto said, "I didn't expected you to find me so quickly. I barely had the time learn one jutsu." He was training? Iruka thought. Then Naruto continued saying, "Hey, watch me do this cool jutsu I learned, and if I succeed I become a Genin, right?" Iruka was extremely confused and asked, "Who told you this?" Naruto responded with, "Oh, it was Mizuki-sensei. He also about the existence of this scroll, and where to find it as well as this place." Iruka was shocked at this information and quickly realized what was going on, but before he could do anything he noticed a barrage of kunais heading rapidly towards them. Iruka pushed Naruto away while tanked the kunais being slammed against the cabin in the process. Naruto was shocked and confused seeing this, while Shadow was started to worry. "I was right." Well, of course I was right. It was obvious after all. Mizuki made his presence known when he landed on tree branch near them. "Well done, Iruka. It seems you've managed to find him." Iruka grunted in pain while looking at him and removing a kunai stuck on his left shoulder. Naruto was just looking back and forth between his two senseis, still in shock and confused, but also start to panic slightly. "Naruto," said Mizuki, gaining the attention of the blonde, "give me the scroll." Iruka immediately shouted, "Don't! This scroll contains forbidden jutsus. He tricked you into stealing it so he could have it for himself." Naruto turned to Iruka with his eyes widening at this news. "Come on, Naruto. This scroll is useless for you. How about I tell you the truth?" Iruka's eyes widened hearing this, as he knew what he was about to do. Naruto looked at him confusedly. "Mizuki, don't!" Iruka screamed. Shadow was a bit panicked by what was going on and thought, he's really going to it. Crap. If Naruto doesn't control himself, this might end badly. Mizuki started talking. 12 years ago, the Kyuubi attacked the village and the fourth Hokage apparently defeated it. This is a lie, he never did. Instead, he sealed it away in a baby. This baby was you. You are the Kyuubi. Naruto was stunned hearing this. Have you never wondered why everyone was avoiding you like the plague? Have you never asked yourself why did everybody hated you for no apparent reason? It's because you're the nine-tailed fox that devastated the village 12 years ago. The same fox that killed Iruka's parents. Naruto's eyes widened to all those informations. It suddenly all made sense. The hate he received, the beatings, the insults, the things they blamed him for. Everything now made sense. He frowned as he started to feel anger flowing inside of him and releasing it in the form of an orangish aura while repeatedly saying in frustration, "Damn it, damn it, damn it!" Shadow was feeling the anger flowing inside Naruto's body and was slightly relieved that the sealed docent seemed to be damaged, but it was weakened, letting some of the fox's chakra out. But Shadow noticed something. While Naruto was distracted, Mizuki was preparing to throw a giant shuriken at him. He locked it, and Shadow instinctively shouted, "Move!" Naruto was confused by that voice he never heard before until this confusion turned to shock when he saw the giant shuriken heading towards him. He tried to shield himself when suddenly Iruka thrown himself in front of him to protect him, getting his back impaled by the shuriken. "Why?" Naruto asked with some tears forming in his eyes. Iruka looked at him with some tears of his Oswell. Because we're the same, you and I. After my parents died, I was alone with no one to help me. It was painful. So I started acting like a fool in class to gain attention. It was working, but it still felt painful. He could no longer hold his tears as they were flowing down his face. "I'm so sorry, Naruto. If only I was a better teacher, then you wouldn't feel so alone." Then something light up inside of Naruto. Shadow feel it Oswell and internally smirked. So this was the trigger, huh? Well, at least it's not something entirely traumatic. I look forward to our new future, Naruto. Shadow whispered before his and Naruto's soul now fully bond, and a flash of crimson red appeared in his eyes before back to his normal blue eyes. He smiled softly at Iruka and then stand up and put the scroll next to him before making his way towards Mizuki. Iruka, who was confused, asked, "And Naruto, what are you?" Naruto/Shadow turned around and told him, "Don't worry, I'll handle him." And then turned to Mizuki, who also was confused, but this confusion was replaced with arrogance after hearing what Naruto/Shadow said, and laugh has dropped down to face him and says, "Oh, you'll handle me as if you're the dead last of Academy Demon. What could you possibly do to me?" Naruto/Shadow then smirked at him, then said, "This Kagebunshin." Mizuki was then horrified and Iruka was in awe at the sight of at least 1,000 copy of Naruto/Shadow. "What's the matter, traitor? Finally realized you're no match for the ultimate life form? I'm gonna make you regret hurting Iruka-sensei." All the clone says in unison before charging at the traitor, who was screaming for mercy. Asterisk the same location in the morning. "Hey Naruto, come here for a second." Naruto nodded and walked up to him, saying, "Close your eyes." He felt his goggles taken off his forehead and something else placed here. "You can open your eyes now," Naruto said, closing his eyes, and he saw Iruka without his headband and smiling warmly. "Congratulations, Naruto. You graduated from the academy, and to celebrate that I would like to take you for some ramen." Naruto smiled broadly and began to laugh, tears streaming down his face. The story of Naruto, the ultimate life form, began when they returned to the village to eat some ramen, making sure to bring the scroll and a restrained Mizuki. Asterisk the following day, in Naruto's apartment following the Mizuki incident, Naruto slowly opens his eyes and gets out of bed to do his morning routine. But as he puts his feet on the floor, he doesn't feel the cold floor. Instead, he heard a little thud and felt as although he was wearing some shoes, so looked down to see a familiar pair of air shoes. But that's not the only thing he noticed. He saw his hands had white fingerless gloves on as well as golden rings on his wrists and ankles. He got his old gear back. He didn't really know how, but knew it has something to do with the fact that he is now complete. He could also feel chaos energy flowing inside him, which makes him very thankful he got his limiter rings back, cause if he didn't, he would have exploded by now. All these things must have appeared overnight, and was not going to complain having his old powers back. However, he did feel weird about himself. It's as if he was Shadow and Naruto at the same time. Their memories, personalities, tastes, as well as personal view on things collided with each other. But it did feel as if Shadow was more dominant. Naruto was his reincarnation after all, but bits and pieces of Naruto as his own person still remain. He will need to get used to this weird feeling. However, now is not the time to think about this, and he went to start his morning routine. He went to get dressed after taking a cold shower and realized that he would need new clothes because a bright orange jumpsuit isn't appropriate for a shinobi. He also needed to consider a healthy diet because all he had on hand was ramen. This isn't to say that he didn't like it. On the contrary, he realized how unhealthy his diet was, and he would have probably died of malnutrition by now if it weren't for Kyubi. He sighed and continued with what he had, realizing that he couldn't just start the day with an empty stomach after all. He decided to go shopping later because he would be getting his ninja certificate in a few hours, and also to talk to the Hokage about something. Asterisk in the Hokage's office in the evening. Naruto now was in the Hokage's office. He demanded while doing the things for his ninja certificate that they talk about something rather important. Author. By the way, he used Hinge to hide his gear so that no one asked questions yet. So what is it you want to talk about, Naruto? Hiruzen asked in a serious tone, not knowing what the subject of this little meeting is. Before he answers, Naruto asked, "Could we talk about this privately?" Hiruzen knew what Naruto meant and signaled the hidden Umbus to leave. "Thank you," said Naruto. Hiruzen nodded and Naruto then answered, "It's about my parents." Hiruzen's eyes widened. Does he know, he thought. "I have my idea about who they were, but I want to be sure. Third Hokage, Hiruzen, tell me, who are my parents?" Hiruzen was quite shocked at this turn of event. He never expected he could know about his parents. Well, he only said he has a little idea about their identity, but Hiruzen has a feeling that he knows exactly who they were, and the looks in Naruto's face was very serious. He was not taking an "I don't know" as an answer. He knows that Hiruzen knew who his parents were, and so with a sigh, he started talking. "Your parents were two strong ninjas of Konoha. Not just any ninjas. Your father was the Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, and your mother, his wife, was Kushina Uzumaki, who was the previous nine-tailed Jinchuriki Dash, and a member of the Uzumaki clan." Naruto interrupted. Hiruzen's eyes widened way more, shocked he knew that, and asked, "How do you know about this?" "No, judging by your unimpressed look, I will ask. How do you know all of that?" Naruto immediately responded with, "Kyubi told me, that's how." Hiruzen was more shocked. "You can communicate with him?" "Yes, I can, ever since the Mizuki incident." Naruto answered Hiruzen's question before he could ask it, but then he sighed and tilted his head down while resting it on his hand. A lot was going on at the same time, and it was too much shock for him to handle at once, so he calmed down and stand going towards the drawer while asking, "He didn't try to possess you or break free, at least, right?" Naruto smirked and said with confidence, Please, as if this little foxy could possess the ultimate life form. Hiruzen was confused at this. He didn't know exactly where this whole ultimate life form deal came from, but it suddenly started when he was facing Mizuki. He pushed those thoughts aside as he was taking a scroll from the drawer, and went back to his desk and put it on it in front of Naruto. Let me guess, these are my parents' belongings, right? Yes. Hiruzen unrolled the scroll, revealing a complex seal. I'm guessing only can open this, right? Hiruzen nodded, and before he could explain to him how it works, Naruto already had slightly cut his finger and put a drop of blood on the scroll. A puff of smoke then emerged with more scrolls, although smaller, and a note. Naruto took the note first and started to read. It was a note from his mother. Dear Naruto, it's your mother Kushina. If you are reading this, I guess the worst has happened to only me, I hope. But if not, then I'm sorry. I can't be here to take care of you. Me and your father would have loved to watch you grow to be a respectable young man. I don't really have much time to write more as I'm soon about to give birth to you, but know that there is not enough words to describe how much we love you, and that whatever happened, we will always be by your side, and I'm sure that we are proud of you. I love you, my son. Naruto had tears running down his face as he remembered the last words of his mom and dad when he was a baby. Internally, Naruto's side was crying immensely, while Shadow also was really sad, even if he never had actual parents. With the closest thing he had to a father figure was Gerald Robotnik. He still was affected a lot, especially since he feels Naruto's sadness. Naruto continued crying for a while, until he calmed down now, with a smile on his warm face as he put the note back on the desk and went on to see the other scrolls. While Naruto was doing that, Hiruzen took the note and read it. He sighed slightly, remembering their last words Oswell, and feeling ashamed he didn't do a great job at keeping his promise to them. Naruto looked at the 4 scrolls, who were entitled Kushina, Minato, House, and lastly Money. He started with his parents' belongings. Starting with Kushina, the scroll contained her clothes, her headband, and a couple of ninja gear, but what caught his interest the most was a book on Fuinjutsu, as well as one on the story of the village of Uzushio from the Land of Swirls. As for his father, what he had was again his clothes, headband, and ninja gear, except that there were some kunais that were different from the others, his Hiraishin kunais, as the third Hokage called it. He also had a book on the art of Fuinjutsu, as well as theories written by him, and among his clothes was his coat with the inscriptions 4th Hokage on it. Naruto smiled a bit at that, being a bit proud that his father was this important. He moved on to the 2 last scrolls, which contained a contract all about a house not far from here, and another scroll containing details about the amount of money left behind by his parents, and oh boy do they have a lot. He resealed all of those things back in the big scroll and tied it on his back. Before he could go, Hiruzen told him something. Naruto, I would like to say that I'm sorry for everything you had to go through. I made a promise to look out for you to your parents, and yet I realize only now that I did more than a bad job, and so dash. Don't worry, Hiruzen, I don't hold it against you. I don't really hold it against anyone, matter of fact. Naruto interrupted and continued with, although like you said, you did a horrible job at taking care of me, at least you tried, and you actually cared for me and my well-being, and to this I say, thank you. Hiruzen looked at him and smiled. He really has grown. Thanks, Naruto. Now I believe you have some packings to do. Hope you like your new home. I will, Hiruzen. See you next time. Naruto then left to go to his apartment one last time to pack his stuff and move to the home of his parents. * The following day, I feel lazy doing this again. Naruto wakes up having slept comfortably in his new bed in his new home. It wasn't anything really special, a home big enough for a little family, so he has quite the space. He got up to do his regular morning routine, except that this time he has hot water for his shower, and he had bought us some food yesterday before nighttime using Hinge so that they don't kick him out. And with this food, he made himself his first healthy breakfast since a long while ago. And with that done, he was ready to start the day. He still had a week left before the teams are announced, so he guessed that while this time comes he will train, but before that a change of outfit is much needed since this old orange jumpsuit he had definitely isn't anything a shinobi will wear, and so he used Hinge and went shopping. He arrived at a ninja equipment store, and after entering it he went to pick his new ninja outfit. He chose a white v-neck short-sleeve t-shirt with a black short-sleeve jacket with crimson red stripes on the sides. He took a pair of black baggy pants. He took some bandages in which he covered his legs and arms from below his knees to his ankles, and from below his elbows to his wrists. Due to him already having what he needed for his hands and feet, he left the store and took this opportunity of him shopping to buy some other stuff for his home or training. Practicing ground 40. After this whole shopping session, he settled in the training ground number 42 with his new set of clothes on him. For some reasons it seems that no one comes here. He will probably know why when he'll regain the memories of one of his clones. He sent it at the library to gain as much information as possible that the QB couldn't tell him. Speaking of which, he didn't talk to him in a while, so before he gets on with his training he sat down, closed his eyes, and started to focus. After a while, he suddenly found himself in a sewer sort of place with some gigantic prison-like bars standing in front of him. Naruto stared at it for a bit, until he finally started talking. "Yo, what's up, Foxy?" A pair of big red eyes then opened inside the cage. A deep voice came from there. "Aw, the little kit and the rat. So you finally merged together, huh?" "Yup, we did. 2 days ago, actually. I sure have missed a lot, huh?" "Doesn't matter. Why are you here? Is it just a chit-chat?" "Well, yes and no. I was kinda wondering how you were doing since I couldn't talk with you on daily anymore. If you really want to be able to communicate with me, I suggest you allow me access to your senses. I will be able to see the outside as well as have a mental connection with you. Oh, simple enough, I guess." "Well, I guess I will continue talking to you outside of whatever this dumpster is supposed to be." And with that, Naruto opened his eyes back to reality and tried what the tail beast suggested him. He felt a portion of the fox chakra covering his senses, enhancing them in the process. "Hello?" "Yes, I can hear you." "Okay then. Well, now that it's out of the way, I'll go training. And what exactly will you do?" "I plan on abusing the utilization of Kage Bunshin and its memory feedback to learn things relatively quickly, I see. Clever for someone who is half the kit." "Shut up." He then cut the connection and focused back to his initial objective. Created about 100 clones and assigned 20 of them on chakra control exercises. 20 on learning some jutsus he thought would be useful to him. 20 on mastering weaponry. 20 on learning and practicing Fuin Jutsu with the help of his parents' books, and the last 20 of them are tasked with experimenting with his chaos energy while he is doing some workout with a couple of weights he bought while shopping. He then do some simple workout to build up some muscles for the next 4 hours until he was almost exhausted. He turned to his clones and dispelled them by group of 10s in order not to get the backlash of too much information going directly in your brain. After he dispelled all his clones, including the ones he left at the library, he sat down to rest and started meditating for 2 hours before he calls it a day, teleported back home, and went to sleep. Asterisk the final day before the teams returned to the training field. Naruto had made a lot of progress. In terms of chakra control, he already mastered tree climbing and was almost done mastering water walking. Not that he necessarily needed the ability to walk on different kind of surfaces due to him having his air shoes, but it was necessary for his training, and who knows when it will actually come in handy. He learned not a lot of jutsus again, not really having a use for them yet, but he mastered the few as completely. He became more precise with the utilization of ninja tools. He didn't really need it as well, but having a wide arsenal will surely help him in a lot of ways. The biggest progress he made was in Fuinjutsu. He was a natural at it. He find it easy to learn and potentially master, although he was far from there. He had already acquired the basics in Fuinjutsu, not needing to buy explosive tags anymore. His knowledge about this world and things in general was also extremely extended due to all of his shadow clones reading non-stop, and with the Hokage agreeing to give him permission to read through the archives of Konoha, as well as giving him a bingo book, he was then able to get informations on other ninjas, whether they were dead or alive. He also made some interesting discoveries regarding his experimentations with chaos energy. He could easily use it like before with no problem, except chaos control, due to the enormous amount of energy needed to use it to its full potential. He could at best slightly slow down time, and not for a long period of time. But what was really interesting is due to chakra and chaos energy being two separate things, he could utilize both of them at the same time to enhance either his jutsus or chaos techniques, and even managed to make 2 new moves. As for his physique, he grew taller to the same size, if not taller than most of his classmates. He also started to develop some muscles. Nothing really impressive, but it was still something. It normally would not be normal if it wasn't for the fact that it slightly was Kyuubi's doing. Now that he started eating properly, the chakra of the nine-tailed that was filtered to his body was able to work on strengthening his body instead of keeping it alive. He was still taking some ramens at Ichiraku from time to time, visiting Ayam and Tucci, who were happy that he wasn't struggling in life anymore, and they supported him. He really enjoyed their presence. He also visits Irika and Hiruzen, who were really impressed at his sudden changes, but happy about it as well. His relationship with the tail beast was no longer a warden to prisoner type, but more like acquaintances. Kyuubi even told him his real name, Kurama. After being done with his training for the day, he chaos snapped back home and went to sleep, as tomorrow the teams will be announced, and he was pretty curious on who he will be paired with as well as who will be his sensei. He didn't thought much about it, and closed his eyes, and went to dreamland. The day that the teams were formed. On his way to the academy, Naruto was wearing his new fashionable outfit with his parents' headbands fastened to his belt. The villagers were staring at him, a little taken aback by his abrupt change in attire and his somewhat taller build. But Naruto wasn't complaining because it was preferable to the vile looks he was used to receiving. On the way, he also encountered Konohamaru, who attempted to challenge him. He saw Naruto as a rival once more because they both wanted to become Hokage. Author, if you read my notes at the end of the 3rd chapter, you would know that I skipped their meeting, who I explained was essentially the same as canon with some changes. However, Naruto told him that he didn't have time to play with him because he would be officially assigned to a team today. Asterisk in a randomly selected academy classroom where the teams will be assembled. Naruto entered the classroom, which caused all the students that were already there to look at the door as they heard it opened and were shocked to see Naruto as well as his new look. Naruto internally smirked at this and just said hello before taking a seat next to Sasuke, who was just glancing at him, bearing slightly surprised by the change in outfit, as well as noticing he was as tall as him now, but he didn't give too much importance at that, and went back to thinking about a lot of ways he could take revenge on his brother. Naruto sighed at this, and pulled out his father's scroll on Jutsu, ignoring the whispers of his classmates about him. After a while, he heard some loud steps quickly coming toward the classroom, and Naruto was annoyed at this, knowing damn well who was coming. The door opened with two girls coming in the classroom at the same time and argued loudly about who won, which makes the entire class sweat drop before going back to chatting. One of the girls who came from the door, Sakura, walked towards Naruto, which made him sigh, knowing exactly what was going to happen. "Hey Naruto, move out the way, I want a seat next to Sasuke." This caused all the girls, except one, to glare at her angrily, while Sasuke, despite looking like he was still in his thoughts, was sweating a bit and praying that Naruto doesn't give off his seat so Sakura could sat next to him. He would rather endure how loud and annoying Naruto was than dealing with a fangirl continuously asking him out. But what was surprising to everyone was that Naruto didn't respond. In fact, he completely ignored her, still reading his scroll. This of course pissed Sakura, and shouted again, "Oli, are you deaf?" "I told Y dash, shut up," Naruto said bluntly, not even making eye contact with her. This of course surprised everyone who knew Naruto had a crush on Sakura. Said Kunoichi was shocked as well, but more pissed, and said, "How dare you talk to me like that? How else am I supposed to talk to the girl who abused me just for loving her? Oh, by the way, good news for you, Sakura. I no longer love you now." This shocked everyone. Even Sasuke was surprised by this interaction. He was glancing over at them. "Now will you please go away? You're annoying," Naruto said to Sakura while still not even looking at her once, and try to focus on his scroll. "Wappa dash, did I stutter?" Naruto cut her off, looking her in the eyes with a cold and annoyed look. Sakura just slowly go away, still in shock at what happened. There was an awkward silence for a while. It then turned into whispers about Naruto and his weird behavior. Shikamaru, while looking at Naruto, noticed that he had two other Konoha headbands and decided to ask him about it. "Hey Naruto, why do you have two more headbands on your belt?" Everyone then looked at Naruto, now noticing the headbands and waiting for an answer. Naruto looked at Shikamaru and then let out a small smile and answered, "They're the headbands of my parents." This surprised his classmates. "Your parents were shinobis?" asked a random student. "Yup, they were Jonins. They died during the Nine-Tailed Fox incident 12 years ago." The class then went silent after this. They really felt bad for him. After a long while, the class went back to their chatting until Irika came into the room. "Hello everyone, and congratulations on becoming Jonins. Know that it's now things are becoming serious. Your job will consist on doing certain missions for the village. Today we will assign you in a team of 3 supervised by a Jonin. Said Jonin will be your sensei, and you will have to follow his instructions." To that, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke thought, "TCH, a team of 3, that's 2 more nuisances to weight me down." Sasuke, "Alright, I just need to be in the same team as Sasuke-kun." Sakura, I knowing how the teams are balanced out, I will for sure be with Sasuke. I just hope that whoever else is with us won't be too annoying to deal with. In order to balance things out, the council already has formed the team. Now the Team 1 will be... Araka continued until he reached Team 7. Team will be Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno Fuck. Naruto screamed, hearing the last name, which surprised everyone. Araka, who was also surprised, thought, "Weird, I thought he would have been slightly happy about this. He really has changed." Moving on to Team 8, Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Team 9 is still active, which leave Team 10, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Okay, students, this was all the teams. You can go have lunch, but be sure to be back before your new sensei arrives. Araka then left the room, and everyone left to have lunch somewhere. Hinata, who was disappointed to not be on the same team as Naruto, was about to leave the room, but before she crossed the door, she looked back to see that Naruto was still on his seat reading through his scroll. She looked away and thought to herself that maybe she could ask him to go eat with her. After gathering the courage to do so, she could no longer see him at his seat. She was confused by this, but left the room and tried to look for him, but quickly gave up and went with her team. Asterisk on the academy's rooftop. Naruto had used Chaos Snap to teleport here, and sat down somewhere to eat some dango he brought. This will be hard to deal with. I don't necessarily hate Sakura, but she is just straight up annoying and extremely immature. As for Sasuke, all he cares about is becoming strong to have his revenge, and even if he is strong for a genin, he hardly worked hard to gain results, as the teachers just gave him all he needed on a silver platter. I'm genuinely surprised he didn't notice the favoritism he was getting. But now I wonder who will be our sensei. Surely someone that the council assigned to train Sasuke, but who is strong or talented enough to be considered the best pick for teaching the edgy guy. Kakashi, of course. Why am I even asking that question? He has a Sharingan after all. I still will have to thank Hiruzen for authorizing the access to some of the archives. I never would have thought that it contained more information than I expected, yet it really has helped in preparing myself a bit for what is possibly to come. It sure did, Naruto. Yup. Anyway, are you sure you can stand those two brats? They give you such a headache that even I can feel it. Don't worry. Now that we will enter the serious world of ninjas, they are bound to change for the better. Or at least I hope. He continued to chat with Kurama for a while, until it was time to go back to the classroom. Asterisk after 3 hours, returning to the classroom. The only genin team remaining was Team 7. Their assigned sensei still hasn't arrived, which confirmed his original thoughts on who would be their teacher, as Kakashi Hatake has a bit of a reputation for often arriving 3 hours late at least. Sasuke, seated on his usual seat, was still plotting on his revenge, while Sakura, in front of the class, was frustrated due to their sensei being very late. Naruto, being on the row right above Sasuke, was writing in a scroll about possible jutsus he could perform in combination with his chaos energy. He decided to write Chaos Release as the title for his scroll. "Where is he?" shouted Sakura, having enough of waiting so long. Naruto, while taking his eyes off his scroll nor stopped writing, answered with, "Stop whining. If our sensei is who I think it is, then he should arrive soon enough." Sasuke raised an eyebrow while glancing at him, and Sakura also looked at him, slightly confused. "Do you know who our sensei is?" she asked, and Naruto answered, still not giving her his full attention. "While I don't know him personally, I still know who he is as a shinobi, and let me tell you, don't let his behavior fool you. He is not to be underestimated." Naruto said that last part with a serious tone, letting his classmates get the message, And before they could ask anything about this sensei, at this moment the door opened and from it they could see Kakashi entering the room. The Jonin silently watched the Genin team and with a lazy voice said, "All right, if you're Team 7, then meet me at the roof." He then used Shunshin and disappeared in a swarm of leaves. At this moment, Naruto used Chaos Snap to teleport to the rooftop in front of Kakashi, who took a second to realize that he was there with him. Asterisk when Sasuke and Sakura showed up. Kakashi was leaning against the railing with the three Genin having sat down on some stairs in front of him. Naruto had put his scroll away. "All right, now that we are all here, how about you introduce yourselves? And how should we?" Sakura asked. "Oh, I don't know. Tell me your names, your likes and dislikes, your hobbies and dreams for the future. You know, simple things like that. Then can you introduce yourself first to see how it's done?" Sakura asked again. "Me? Well, my name is Kakashi Hitaki. My likes and dislikes are none of your business. My hobbies, I don't feel like telling you. And my dreams for the future, I don't have any." Sakura and Sasuke's sweat dropped at this, while Naruto was smiling slightly at this. "More like you love reading that little book of your sensei," Naruto thought. "All right, now how about we start with you, Pinky?" Kakashi said, looking Sakura, who was on the left side. "Pinky? Well, my name is Sakura Haruto, my likes. Well, the person I like," she said, looking towards Sasuke. "My dreams." She looked at Sasuke again. "As for my hobbies," she again looked at him, and at this point everyone else was sweat dropping at this. Sakura was about to shout that she despised Naruto, but remembered their interaction earlier and felt uncomfortable and just said, "Well, as for my dislikes, I guess I don't really enjoy Ino's presence." Kakashi noticed her sudden shift in behavior and was slightly confused. He was wondering what could cause this, but he had his answer when Sakura tried to glance at Naruto just to immediately turn her gaze away from him, while sweating a bit as she saw the eyes of Naruto, who was slightly unhappy due to him already knowing her original thought. Just what happened between these two? "Okay, now to the brooding guy." Sasuke was slightly ticked by this remark, but couldn't care less and started presenting himself. "I am Sasuke Uchiha. There's so little things that I likes and many that I dislikes. I will keep my hobbies to myself, and as for my dream, it isn't a dream because I will make it reality. I will restore my clan to its former glory and kill a certain someone." Once he finished, there were varying reactions. Sakura thought that he sounded cool. Kakashi was expecting this, and Naruto was disappointed. He reminded him of himself as Shadow when was freed by Dr. Eggman. He also wanted revenge for what humanity had done to Maria, but of course he remembered his promise to her just in time to save his previous planet. Just remembering those days saddened him. Kakashi regained the attention of the Genins when he asked Naruto to present himself. Naruto smiled and said, "I am Naruto Uzumaki, the ultimate life form." This declaration really caught the three off guard. "I like spending time with Irika Sensei and going to Ichiraku. I also have a passion in learning all kind of ninja art that includes Gyuinjutsu that I like in particular. I don't necessarily have a lot of things that I dislike, but if I have to say something, it would be the fact that there are people that can't make the difference between a prison and its prisoner. My hobbies consist of intense daily training and experiments with chakra. And as for my dreams..." Naruto thought back to Maria and his promise, and let a warm smile and declared, "I will become Hokage, the greatest there is, and keep my promise to my friend, protect everyone, and give them a chance to be happy." This last one came out as a shock to Kakashi before he smiled behind his mask and thought, Sensei, Kushina, if only you were there to see how much your son has grown. A promise? To who? Asked Sakura. A old friend of mine. Her name was Maria. Everyone was confused at that name as it was not a usual one here, Maria. Never heard of someone named like that. And what's that whole deal on you being the ultimate life form? Asked Sasuke. Well, that's for you to find out for yourself. Sasuke. He replied with smirk on his face while looking at him. Kakashi sighed and said, Okay, now that the introduction are done, we can get started with your Chunin graduation. Sasuke and Sakura were definitely confused at that. Finally getting to the point, Sensei, thought Naruto, who knew what was coming. A graduation? Why? Didn't we already graduated? Asked Sakura. Kakashi started to chuckle. What's so funny? Oh, nothing, just thinking about what kind of faces y'all would do if I tell you. You see, this little exam of the academy was just to see who has the potential of becoming a Chunin. We Jonins are here to test if you can really become Chunins. And from all the students who graduated at the academy, only 9 of them would pass. The rest, though, will have to go back to school. Sakura had a shocked face. Sasuke was frowning a bit while Naruto was smirking. All right, meet me at training ground number 7 at 6 a.m. Oh, and I suggest you to not take breakfast. You might throw it up. Kakashi said that before he used Shansen and disappear in a swarm of leaves. Naruto gets up, and as he leaves, he says to his teammates, I suggest you eat regardless. You wouldn't pass up on some more energy to pass the test, right? And plus, he only suggested not to take breakfast. He never said straight up not eat. They both looked at him for a while until Hay nodded. They could see the logic behind Naruto's words. All right then, if you don't mind me, I'm going to Ichiraku's. See ya. Naruto then ran off at an incredible speed thanks to his air shoes, leaving a trail of orange lightning of sorts behind him. The 2 Chunins really didn't know how to act around him nor what to think about his sudden change. He changed way too much for them to adapt quickly. They stayed here for a bit until they themselves started going home. Well, Sasuke was with Sakura, bugging him by asking him out on dates. Practicing ground 40. Naruto was back here to do his daily training. Many would think that it is a bad idea to push yourself so much, and frankly it is. But he was the ultimate life form. It isn't a simple training like his that would exhaust him. And plus the genes of the Uzumaki clan that gave him an enormous chakra reserve helped him out in not getting tired. His training was drastically more difficult, but still felt like a walk in the park for him. While he was doing an intense workout, as well as meditating a bit, he made 1,000 clones, all of which are assigned to learning different things, like water walking to better his chakra control, reading through an advanced scroll on Fuin Jutsu, as well as practicing it, perfecting his usage of different weapons, perfecting his fighting style, learning some C-rank jutsus. In fact, he even learned his affinity for wind jutsus thanks to the Hokage, who agreed to give him a paper that allowed him to learn his chakra nature was wind. So he was practicing in wind jutsus. And lastly, there were clones who were experimenting on the fusion of chakra and chaos energy. As of now, he figured that he could enhance the power and effectiveness of jutsus when adding chaos energy, and when he mixed chakra into his chaos techniques, he could control them better. From that he have created some jutsus that only he could use, and possibly his descendants if they were to inherit the ability to produce chaos energy naturally. He called it chaos release, and had thought about making an excuse about it being a blood limit or something among those lines if he were to use them in front of others. For now, he had his already existing chaos abilities like Chaos Snap, Chaos Regeneration, Chaos Spear, Chaos Lance, Chaos Rift, Chaos Sphere, Chaos Pulse, Chaos Burst, Chaos Thrust, Chaos Beam, Chaos Blast, and Chaos Control. Those last two, he figured, he most likely will never use them to their fullest potential ever again due to lacking the existence of emeralds on this world. He also made new chaos abilities with chakra like Homing Chaos Spear/Lance, Chaos Shards, Chaos Clone, Chaos Blow, and Chaos Chains. Since chakra and chaos energy have completely different energy signatures, he kept his ability to use chaos energy a secret. He was also concerned about whether people could sense it, but Kurama confirmed that he couldn't sense whatever the chaos energy was, even though he was sealed inside. After further training, he dispelled his clones in groups of 20 and went back to his house to sleep.